Okay, men, we're back with another video, and today I am very excited to have my new friend, Roya Mattis, and she is the creator of the SHE-ness tribe and has been working with women for, I think you said 19 years, Roya.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited to have you here. Roya has an energy that I just find intoxicating. And so, men, when I hope it comes out this morning, but men, when we're talking about the feminine and feminine energy, she is exactly what I'm talking about. The first time that we connected, I felt it, and I enjoy it.
Thank
So
you.
today's conversation will be a little unique. So usually what I do in these videos is I go through the blueprint that's in the book, The Masculine in Relationship, and we go through respond versus react, provide structure, and create safety. Today, we're going to focus on the third one, which is create safety. And Roy and I have been talking a lot about, the issue of trust and the need to really build it in from day one to a relationship and then continue to maintain it. And that's what caught my eye about the potential topics for today. So, Roya, you've talked a lot to me about trust and the need to establish it up front in a relationship. And
Yeah.
wonder if you had more to say about that.
I think a lot, GS, you were talking about is established from the beginning of a relationship, but of course can evolve over time. And I had no idea as an independent woman how much I craved to be held, how much I craved safety, that the core part of who I am as a being, as a woman, is the need to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a conference once and they gave an example of how a woman walks around every day looking out for her safety in a way that a man doesn't even recognize or realize that we're having to do. And the perfect example is when we walk into a parking lot. A man can just walk in and go to the car, and I am always like looking around and darting for the door
Yeah.
because there is always a sense of a little bit of insecurity there.
Yeah.
And it's just societally, it's physically, it's all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're paired with the right person and they can give you an overall sense of being safe, it's
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's everything. And that's kind of what we're screaming for in a lot of our conversations as a woman to a man in an intimate
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, two things you said really came that popped up for me. So one is that you guys have a sense of physical danger, even though we live in a civilized society. You have this sense of a physical danger, which I don't know. I'm imagining can in some ways keep you on edge, at least when you're out in the world and maybe in exposed situations. And that you're right. That's something that men we tend to forget is real. But the other thing that you hinted at it, but I just knowing you, I think I know this is true, but competent women, really uber competent women, um, you can do all these things for yourself. You can create your own structure and safety in life because you're capable. And I think the problem that I'm actually going to ask you to comment on the female side, but for the men, we can sometimes fall into the trap of, oh, well, she's got it handled, so I don't need to do that for her because she's
Yeah.
so competent.
Yeah.
And I will admit I had experience of this back, way back when I was married. I was married to a very competent woman. And I think I lulled myself into leaving a lot to her.
Mhm.
And she said something very simple but profound, which was, yeah, I can do all these things. I just don't want to have to
You
do
want
it.
to have to. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, from the feminine perspective, I imagine the flip side is true of you fool yourself into thinking, okay, I'll just handle all this stuff for myself. And then 10, 20 years later,
Yeah.
you're absolutely just worn out and dissatisfied.
A
This
hundred
is my,
percent.
okay, yeah.
100%. So when we first got married, and we're both naive. I'm excited about starting out life, and I came from being the oldest in my family. I had three younger
Mhm.
brothers, and
Mhm.
so I was used to kind of handling things. And I had been on my own, and he had never actually fully been on his own. He's the youngest in his family, and so when things came up, like first I remember it being like balancing the checkbook and writing the bills, and he was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Don't worry, I'll handle that." And then it
Yeah.
became things like how we managed a house. Oh, I don't know how to handle all these things. Don't worry, I'll handle that. And then one after the other, it was like, yeah, I got it. I got it. Don't worry, I got it. I got it. Don't worry. And it was more of like, hey, I can do it. It's no problem.
Mhm.
And then it became this feeling of unconscious resentment because now I
Mm,
have more on my shoulders, and then it became a pattern. So when we hit tough times, it became a pattern of,
yeah,
oh, Roya, how about you handle that?
yeah, yeah.
And exactly what you said. It's not that we can, it's that we don't want to have to. And so we don't even, I think it's the little things too. And this is something where I watch women do all the time. We don't know that we are adding burden to our own shoulders and unconsciously or consciously asking the man to step out of the way when we actually don't want to communicate that,
Hmm.
with the
Hmm.
little things like door opening. Like I see women like, no, 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 I got the door. Yeah, you do, but do you want to have to all the time?
Yeah. Yep.
And carrying things in. One of the things I have to give to my dad is he never let my mom carry
Yeah.
anything in the house.
Yep.
And I'm actually quite strong. I can carry a lot of things. In fact, my style is to carry all the groceries at once.
Why do I
And
believe that, Roya?
what?
I said,
You
why
know,
do I believe that?
it's like, we just got to point A to point B. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
So that's when the medicine comes in.
Yeah.
But then when you have an opportunity for someone to be there for you and they can grab the bags, men offer to and maybe insist on it, and women step back and let
Yeah.
it happen
Oh my
because
gosh.
it means a lot more than carrying that bag.
Yeah. Okay. So you said so much. So let's see. I want to try to retain both of these in my mind while we tackle them one by one. But let's, you said something about resentment, and that is really, really critical. So men listening, when she's feeling resentment because of your lack of stepping up over the years, it's going to, and Roya, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it's going to come out in her, feeling less sexual with you. It's going to come out with her being a little more irritable with you, maybe even nagging you and kind of poking you at times, because that resentment is just sort of, it's chronic, but it's really low level, but it's there, and it's going to affect her daily behavior. And this is really the basis of the book, quite frankly, is it's not because she's changed and become uninterested in sex. It's not because she just got grumpy. Ah, you've got your copy. Nice. It's not about her in most cases that I've seen. It's actually about you and your behavior and what we're talking about, this thing of even as simple as opening the damn door for her, or carrying the groceries in, or moving on up to handling things around the house. These are the types of things that they seem small, but when you start to do these over time, and then there's bigger versions of this that you need to engage in, but these are just the small examples. But over time, that's when that resentment may start to recede, and she's going to open up and become that woman that you remember from the earliest part of your relationship, when she seemed more playful and more forgiving and all of those things. Um, so I want to pivot that, Roya, to, you had some examples. There was something about painting a fence that I think you talked about.
Yeah.
And I know it's a small example, but it was real for you and had impact.
So I want to pause for a moment and just appreciate and honor my husband for creating space and allowing this conversation to be public, because I think it takes a very strong man and a secure person to be
Mhm.
able to put our intimate details of our home out there in an effort to help others bypass the mistakes that we've made. And we're actually honestly really working on healing now, and we're in a process for ourselves, and as we discovered the things that we're passing on now to create longer lasting, deep, passionate, connected relationships. So I honor him for that as I share these stories.
Yeah. And I love hearing that. This is a model for all the men listening. Like, even 20 years into a relationship, things can change. And the step that I'm proposing to you is that you change first. Stop worrying about what you think that she needs to do, and you can change. And even 20 years into a relationship, things
Yeah.
can get healed. So I'm glad that you shared that, Roya. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so as I share this next story, I want to connect that I had been asking for help for over 10 years.
Hmm.
And at that stage that he was in, he was saying people that get help get divorced. And I just want to just kind of lay it on the table that
Hmm.
faster you address the little things that are ripping at the fabric of your relationship, the less work, the big holes that you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. And let me throw one thing in, Roya. You know, for the men, what Roya is saying is very important. It requires you to start listening to her pain. And yeah, guys, it's going to sound like the pain is going to sound a little bit like complaining or nagging or criticizing. Sometimes, you know, these things aren't always clean. But if you can hear the pain, not the blame, which is something I talk about in the book, that's how you can get into the space that Roy is talking about. We're recognizing these little hurts in her and then addressing them as you go. But the first part is you got to hear them. And so it really takes a different kind of listening. You got to listen past the words into the pain that's behind it.
That's what's so brilliant about your book. It is, and it puts so much cool responsibility on the guy. It makes me feel free, but no, it's dual work, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just appreciate
Yeah.
you're asking them to lean in. It's so beautiful, because I have noticed that when the masculine appears, the feminine does naturally show up.
Yeah.
And so all you seek is within, but calling that out takes these details that you go through, Gia. So what happened for us, we were newly married, and about a couple years into it, we bought a new townhome, and the townhome required a fence repaint. And it just sounds really simple, but I was starting a new business and I was working a lot, and he said, I'll take care of the fence. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And so literally we started to get HOA letters like, mm-hmm. Your fence needs to be complete. Your fence needs to be complete. And meanwhile, at that time, he doesn't do it anymore, but back then he was playing video games a lot. Yeah. And I'm like, you're playing the video games and the fence still isn't painted. And mm-hmm. 2.5 years later, we moved out and that fence was only half painted.
Oh, geez. So it was a daily reminder of his, unwillingness to step up.
It's those little things where you establish trust. So if you're in a relationship where she's asking over and over again, is this done? Is this done? Is this done? It may be at a core root that the little things you thought didn't matter, her testing points, mm-hmm. are now showing up in her nagging, because she can't just know that you're going to do it. She can't let it go, right. Because you've proven in something else that you couldn't. So it was a trickle down effect. We don't want to remember them, but they do come because we're looking for security as at our core as a woman, yes. Because we're looking for safety, to know you've got it. When you show us in the little things you don't got it, it manifests into annoyance at first.
Yeah, Roy, what you're saying is very important. And I think the challenging part for men is we have a lot of things we're like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'll do it. Don't worry. And we tend to dismiss. And when we dismiss, we're not really tapped in your pain. We're not realizing this is actually a really big deal for you. So we're sort of projecting our way of thinking onto you. Mm-hmm. And so men, this is the number one thing, as Roya said, if she's coming back to you time and time on a singular issue, or there's an edge to how she engages with you, don't think of that as, oh, she's being annoying and bitchy. Mm. It's not that. It's like she's hurting over something. And if you don't address it, man, that's on you.
Wow.
If she doesn't want to that night be central with you, don't try to speculate as to why. You already know it's why. It's that thing that you ignored that she said earlier that day or earlier that week or earlier even that month or year or 20 years later, quite frankly. Because when you ignore her pain, it's going to stick with her, and it will have consequences of closing her heart and her body to you. And it's the opposite of what you want. So let's listen to Roya here. She's pointing the way.
Very well said.
For us men to follow. Okay. Roya, you've got other examples I think I recall?
Yeah. Gosh, so many. I'm going to give, do you want 1, 2, or 3 more examples?
Let's start with 1.
Okay. I'll go with a big one. Well, GS, you talk a lot about safety in your book. I think that's the third element of the blueprint, right? And
yes.
So safety and trust kind of go together. So I'm going to give you an example that happened a long time ago. But so we're in the streets of Argentina, and it was a wonderful thing to be able to do that. And we're shopping, and we're with a small group of friends. And my husband's actually very observant. I'm not observant, especially when I go somewhere and I'm having fun. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. And so I'm in the moment. I'm looking at all these little treasures in the street. And
Feminine, feminine.
he's like, hey, we got to get going. It's starting to look like it's getting dangerous here. Oh, okay, sure. And we're just still walking. And so I'm like, I'm heading in the direction that he's asking me to go, but things are catching my eye along the way. And so we're just kind of flooding around and having fun. And then all of a sudden he goes, someone just got stabbed over there. I told you it was dangerous and we had to go. And then he took off.
Yeah.
He just left. He just left me standing in the middle of the street. And now I realize that there's extreme danger. Now I realize that I could be harmed, and my protector is a block away.
Yeah.
I've never felt more vulnerable. That was, of course, a long time ago, and we've learned a lot, but those moments etch into you.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, even however many years later the story is, like, I mean, you're feeling it in the moment. I can totally feel you re-experiencing that, the fear you were probably feeling at that time. Yeah, this is a great example, Roya, both from the way you set it up, but also the example itself. And so I'd like to kind of turn it over a little bit. I don't know your husband, so everything I'm saying is not really about him. It's more the archetypal. But there is a tendency for men to have, they think they're leading, but it's kind of weak leadership. So, somebody who's saying, hey, we got to go, but not really getting the attention of his feminine partner. And then when this generic feminine partner doesn't listen, like, we can take that as kind of, it hurts. We go into a hurt response, like, look, she's not listening to me, I'm hurt. And then we go into kind of our anger portion, which it's my interpretation of your story. It's like, there was like, first he's hurt that you're not listening. And then when it all goes down, he's kind of angry and sort of is punishing you a little bit by taking off. And again, I don't know if that fits your story. It doesn't matter. It's more the archetypal.
Yeah.
So the question, I know the men who are listening to us, Roya, they're thinking, okay, well, how are we supposed to handle this? Am I supposed to be the big tough guy in the streets? And it's like, no. Don't go to the dramatic portions of this. The first thing I think that this, archetypal man in the story would do is he needs to get his woman's attention. If you're feeling danger, guys, don't just whisper it to her or give a mild suggestion. You need to stand in front of her. If she's not even looking at you, gently grab her cheeks and say, baby, look at me. We got to go now. Give me your hand. I'm going to go this way. And so you got to give very clear direction. So if you're going to lead, if you're going to be the protector in times like this, you've really got to tune in, get her attention, and show clarity around a very specific direction. And if she's, like Roya was describing, kind of being in her feminine, looking around and not paying attention to you, that's not her fault. That's yours. That is on your shoulders if you want to take on this role of masculine leader. Now, if you don't, great, you don't have to do that, but you're going to get the results of a lack of long-term trust with your woman, which will then have its own impact of closing her, again, her body, her heart, and her mind to you. So I don't know, Roya, that's what comes up for me.
On. Yes, it was almost a visceral reaction for me. You just describing to take her face and to ask her to pay attention and look. I mean, I would just melt. Yes, whatever you want to do. I mean, that's the reaction I viscerally have immediately.
Yeah. I love hearing that. Well, and that's why we're here. That's why you and I are on video. At least for me, it's really to help men see these ways that they can start to build trust in really little ways. Guys, it's in your power. It is in your power to do these things. You just need to know how, and you've got to bring it. And I think the bottom line is, I think the two lessons that we've had out of this discussion are, number one is extreme clarity in those times where you really need her to listen to you and follow your lead. And the other is that it's really the small things over time. It's the fence you didn't paint on time that you didn't think was a big deal, but actually to her is a big deal. And it's those little things you've got to learn to tune into. And I gave you the key, men. When she has an edge, when she has irritability about something she's mentioning to you, when she mentions it to you multiple times, let that be your red flag, that something deeper is going on here.
Mm.
Okay, that was a lot.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Roya, we've come to the end of our time. We've got to say goodbye. I love that smile, and really enjoyed having you on. I'm going to definitely have you on again sometime.
I would love it.
Especially
It would
Alex.
be my
Yeah.
honor.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, dear.